Thank you, Mr. President. I'd be remiss if I didn't make some comments about what took place in the month of June, especially amongst a ton of my constituents who were affected by this disaster. First, I do want to point out that had it not been for the first responders in West Virginia, we'd have seen a death toll so much higher. There were 23 lives that were taken from this flood, 6 in Kanawha County. We saw the National Guard, who came and set up posts, was there going into homes. From a location that I worked at, 10 days after the flood, we had an individual show up who had not been out of their home and had been merely surviving on eating cat food, and came down and had not had any type of meal and had a special needs child. We've had families completely torn apart from this disaster. There was one family I talked to and the mother was crying, pointing at her young child and saying, "You see the walker, the little toy that she's in? That's the only toy that child has left." A lot of people ask, why don't they go live elsewhere with their families? Well, Mr. President, in West Virginia, your family is your neighbor. A lot of times they'd say, "We live here. My mom lives right there. My sisters and brothers live right there." The situation was horrific. Mr. President, I thought I knew what a natural disaster was. I thought I understood it. But it wasn't until I saw the devastation that was left behind for these individuals that I truly got to experience what it was. My county and my constituents are so thankful for all the volunteers that came out to help. We had countless numbers of them. We had people come from all across the United States and from even other places in the world. We had one lady drive down and say, "I'm not from West Virginia, but I want to help. And I had to catch rides all the way to get to your state." And she found someone to live with, lived in a shelter, just so she could help individuals by cleaning out their homes. The outpouring of aid from all types of organizations and individuals was nothing like I'd ever seen before. We also did receive some help from FEMA, but Mr. President, I don't share the praise for FEMA that a lot of people have. 7,000 individuals applied for FEMA aid in West Virginia. 2,500 homes were destroyed. And Mr. President, the cap was $33,000 of what individuals could receive. And the number I was given was only 188 people received that $33,000 cap. We can spend billions of dollars overseas, but when it comes to being there for our own people, the federal government being there for our own people, they fell short. We still have people living in tents in Kanawha County, all across our state, put out of their home. Mr. President, I don't have a lot of praise for the situation that happened from our federal government. I really think that we should have done more for our citizens who pay taxes, who put in for those programs, and who allow those organizations to exist. As you all know, that Herbert Hoover High School and Clendenin Elementary School, those kids were displaced. We are not going to receive portables to help those schools until February. We have kids that are doing only half days of education. Our middle schoolers are there for half a day and then leave, trying to jam everything they can into a short period. Our high schoolers, the same situation. And yet we have to wait until February because of red tape in order to get enough classrooms to adequately educate our students. That is no fault of the teachers and no fault of the students. That is a failure of planning from the federal government, who've been through these situations multiple times. I'll tell you, our citizens are strong. Our communities are strong. And our appetite for success in West Virginia is there. We're going to come out of this. We are going to recover because West Virginians are strong. We are going to get better and we're going to help. But I will say, in replacing the schools, we have to make sure that the elementary school remains in Clendenin and that Herbert Hoover High School remains in the same community area as well. Because if we take those away from a community who's already suffered so much from a natural disaster, then there's very bleak hope of economic recovery for those areas. I feel so horrible for all the people that went through this situation. And I'm glad that we have this amount of money that we are putting up to try to help them. And I'm so glad the state's finally getting involved. But, Mr. President, this is not going to be enough. We all have to do more. We have to roll up our sleeves and do everything we can for the people that were affected by this disaster statewide. Thank you, Mr. President.